Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts. Salt peanuts.
It's so hard to fucking pinpoint who I am, what I am, how to describe yourself in 5 words. How the fuck do we do that? But right now, I'm just kind of just a complete drifter. I don't know. You know, I see myself as this Plato-like structure, this individual without really any shape or form, but really malleable, really flexible. And really all I do is to be honest, I just drink and write. I can't really say, but realistically, like, my whole persona, the person who I've been, has changed dramatically, especially over the past 11 years since when I left everything behind and crossed the Atlantic. But now, like, I mean, looking myself a year ago, I was working in a hospital, had responsibilities, I had an identity. Like, I was a clinician, wearing a white robe, stethoscope at times around my neck, speaking with patients with a clipboard, nodding my head, saying, "Tell me more about yourself. How does that make you feel? Why? When? Why?" And push medications. Now here I am in Granada, Albacete, completely lost, drifted. But it really seems kind of a person's identity can be just changed so much by people's perception of how they define themselves, and also how people define oneself. Like, for instance, if I told you I used to be a doctor versus now I'm a drifter writer, or even with like a nationality, let's say I tell myself, yes, I'm Carl Ragsdane, I'm from a Canada, well-developed country, you probably see myself as completely different if I say, hey, my name is Dragos, and I'm from Eastern Europe, Romania. But now, I don't know, looking back in time, trying to kind of pinpoint an identity, feels like, realistically, we always want to achieve something. We always want to be someone that we can't really seem to be. And then we kind of have troubles fitting in, always switching through an identity. I mean, we all go through that teenage angst, that Christ, you know, when we want to be like someone, where we want to have our influenced. Like for myself, I wasn't raised by my parents. I lived with my grandparents, and I never really knew really what my identity was. I was just like this kid who was always spoiled by his grandparents. And then I immigrated to Canada, and then I had the whole sensation of being an immigrant. Like, for fuck's sakes, they even changed my name. I went from being called Dragos to being assimilated into a Western society where they said, well, Dragos, that name's way too fucking foreign, so we'll go by your middle name. But wait, that sounds like a girl's name, so we'll chop off the L and give you a name Carl. And then my whole identity was in fact kind of constructed by this kind of colonialism, Eurocentric vibes of having a name like Carl, John, Smith, Stephen, you know? And since then, I always kind of battled like two identities, even kind of thinking this back. Like when I was at home with fairly conservative parents, you know, I was, you know, be quiet, read a book, do your homework. But then when I was at school, 8, 9 years old, I loved the attention, the adrenaline. I was like the class clown, the whatever. And from then, kind of just growing, I was always kind of a loss until I left home. I kind of had almost had like two personalities, two identities. I had the identity that my parents knew me, my family knew me, and the identity that my colleagues and friends and teachers, how they associated me to be as. And then kind of going through adolescence, it's hard to say. I mean, adolescence, we're like this, I don't know how to describe, we're like this like piece of clay that keeps on being shaped in a mold. We all go through scenes, you know. I mean, looking here in Granada, it feels like this complete subculture of the Rastafari Babylon bullshit. You know, it's like the same wherever. Like in Canada and Vancouver, we had a different, this like minimalistic, wearing black with white shoes and listening to weird ambient music. You know, it's like a different kind of identity, and I think this identity is completely temporal. It's completely, how do you say, it's temporary. And it really feels like identity really just kind of really just changes throughout time. And it'd be kind of cool to be, oh yeah, you know, I can figure myself out, I know exactly who I am, but that's bullshit. We'll never know who we are. We'll never know what we want to do, what our purpose is. It gets influenced day by day. I remember when I was 14, 15, I had a very mature friend who was exactly the same age as I am, and he'd always say, well, I found myself, I knew who I am, and I won't change. But that's bullshit. Looking back 10 years ago when he said that, now he's completely different. So I think identity, it's not static, it's something that keeps on being changed. And it's a cliche or not, but we want to find an identity that fulfills our desires, but also fulfills our social desires as well, to fit in, to feel nurtured. Because we can't be insulted all day. We want an identity that we can relate with others. I was born in Romania, born and raised there with two Romanian parents with long bloodlines in Romania. I guess I'd more fully identify myself as Canadian because I spent more than 20 years in North America, through the school system, through socialization, through friends, through networkings. You kind of have a more capitalistic per se, but also kind of a more Western school of thought. Like, and it's true. I mean, even when I've been traveling, I mostly identify myself as Canadian, even though I haven't been using any Canadian documents to pass through borders or security checks. I've been using my European passport, but it's not like I'm from Spain or France or Germany. I'm from Romania, and even though it's part of the EU, it has a